Welcome to Analyzing the 1%. This program is dedicated to analyzing the psychopathology of those who wield economic power. That is to say, it's dedicated to analyzing the mental condition, the severe mental disturbances of a group of multi-billionaires, these international bankers, those whom we call the 1%. Now, actually, they're not just people who are in the 1% bracket, but those who are trying to dominate humanity. My name is Gilbert Gambucci. I am an occupier of Wall Street. I am from Stop the Destruction of the World Association. By profession, I am a pianist and a psychosocial therapist. And oftentimes I put the two together, piano recitals with a scientific analysis in the middle of different types of social situations that need to be clarified scientifically so that we can find solutions to our problems. And today, I'm going to talk about a subject that is absolutely taboo. I mean, nobody wants to know about what really happened with the Twin Towers attack, what happened with the World Trade Centers, who really destroyed them, who was behind this, who planned it, who orchestrated it. For some reason, most people, they want to turn the blind eye to this. They can't accept what is happening to us in reality. But today, we're going to take a good analysis. I have some interesting facts for us to consider in relation to this really important subject. And I'm just going to be referring to some of my own notes. This is an unpublished book that I've written called Unresolved. And so I don't want to miss anything. So I'm going to be referring to my own notes here, okay? And there's something that is confirmed in this analysis that I'll bring to you today in Brzezinski's book. He's a kind of spokesperson for this little group of multi-billionaires. They use the term elite, but really they're like a very low-level, sick group of people, extremely wealthy. And his book is called The Grand Chessboard. This was published in 1997. And it shows clearly that these people are calling for the necessity of a one world power to dominate all others in order to establish, quote, global stability. So it's made to look like that the United States or the American government needs to be in control of the world situation. But who's really behind it is this little group of powerful people. You know, it's the Rothschilds, Rockefeller dynasty, this regime of multi-billionaire international bankers. And there's a few other families who are in cahoots with them as well. You know, the Harriman family, Warburg, the Schiffs, and the Carnegie people, Morgan. You know, these little groups. It's not every person in these families, but the heads of these families that comprise this dynasty of very dangerous, psychotic individuals. And this group and their secret sect societies, we need to know more about them because they're very dangerous to civilization. They need to be exposed better. You know, they need to be brought to public focus. This is our intent with Occupy Wall Street. We're peaceful demonstrators. We want to bring consciousness to the general public of the real problems that we are experiencing. Because, you know, mainstream media, the corporate media, they have been completely bought up by the 1%, as we call them, by this Rockefeller Rothschild regime. And so the mainstream media, it's a kind of public relations for these people. You know, the official bent on what is happening, that they want us to believe in. These deliriums that they send out through the media. But look, I would like us to look at a few facts. I have a collection here of things that kind of like leaked through, escaped from the control, even of the mainstream media. Because sometimes things get out. Because originally the media was not owned by the 1%. They bought it up through the years. So even today, sometimes some things escaped. For example, in relation to the Twin Towers attack, which is our subject today, in the summer of 2001, just a few months before the attack, Jordanian intelligence intercepts a communication it thinks is so important it is relayed to Washington immediately. The message: a major attack was planned inside the United States and aircraft would be used. This is from the International Herald Tribune. Yeah, no, this is not just somebody on the street who thought they heard something. This is Jordanian intelligence who has communications with the White House. In June of 2001, just before, a couple of months before the attack, German intelligence, the BND, warns the CIA and Israel that Middle Eastern terrorists are, quote, planning to hijack commercial aircraft to use as weapons to attack important symbols of American and Israeli culture. And this is from the large German newspaper. Another thing to accumulate things that slip through. In August, 1 month before, in August of 2001, the Russian president of that time, Vladimir Putin, orders Russian intelligence to warn the U.S. government, quote, in the strongest terms possible, of imminent attacks on airports and government buildings. This is from an interview, the MSNBC interview with Putin. I have another one here. In August of 2001, Israeli security issued urgent warning to CIA of large-scale terror attacks, which would include the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers in New York City. This is from the Telegraph, the British newspaper. And so there are people who were knowing about this ahead of time, who are trying to warn. Imagine they're warning CIA. That's a joke, as we're going to see shortly. Now look, in July, between July 4th and 14th of 2001, this Osama bin Laden, he was receiving treatment for kidney disease, a severe kidney disease, at the American hospital in Dubai, and he meets with CIA officials. Many people know that bin Laden and family and cohort, they were constantly in communication with CIA. They're a part of CIA. CIA and FBI are financed by the Rockefeller Rothschild regime. They're financed by them. They're owned by them. They work for them. A very small part of them are kind of like a fake front that they work for the United States government, which is also dominated by this Rockefeller Rothschild regime, the 1% as we call them. And we're not talking about people who are in the 1% bracket. I was speaking with a guy at Penn Station the other day. He was saying, well, I'm from the 1%. I'm in the 1% top income. And he was a person who buys up properties along the wharf in New York City and then divides them up and sells them off. A ruthless capitalist. But he's not one of these people who are taking control of the planet, controlling our lives. This is who we mean by the 1%. This very dangerous group of people who are really centered around the Rockefeller family. Now look, in relation to Wall Street, they knew what was happening. They knew very well. Many people on Wall Street. You know what a put option is? It's the opposite of a call option. A put option is a speculation that the stock will go down. So you purchase something now, but you pay for it in a future date. And if the stock goes down, and pay for it at that low price, then you make money by this speculation process. And in September 6th and 7th, a few days before the Twin Towers attack, there were 4,744 purchases on United Airlines of this put action. This is 600% above the normal level of put actions. And this was happening in the United Airlines and also American Airlines, which were involved. These were the two airplanes involved in the attack. And so somebody there knew that these two companies, the price of their stocks would dramatically drop. And, you know, FBI and CIA, they keep a constant monitor on the New York Stock Exchange in real time in order to observe abnormal trading and intercept any unwarranted consequences. So they knew, the FBI and the CIA knew very well what was happening. This abnormal trading of put options on United Airlines and American Airlines. And they didn't do anything. We'll see why in a minute. You know, there's an interesting thing here that happened in July. This is an essential point. Just a couple of months before September 11. It was immediately after the G8 summit. 3 American officials meet with Pakistani and Russian intelligence officers in Berlin to tell them that the U.S. is planning military strikes against Afghanistan in October. So they knew that they were planning attacks in October already before the Twin Tower attacks in July. And specifically, these 3 American officials, Tom Simmons, former U.S. ambassador of Pakistan, Carl Inderfurth, former Assistant Secretary of State for South Asian Affairs, and Lee Cauldron, former State Department expert on South Asia. You know, the former officials, you know, these people, they're like get into office, and then even when their duration is expired, they stay there. They continue to work for the United States government because it's all connected with the Rockefeller regime. You know, it's not, they're there perpetually. You know, what is that? They're no longer elected officials, but they stay there working for the Rockefellers in the United States government. Do you see how the government is completely controlled by these economically powerful people? And they were already planning these strikes, these military strikes in Afghanistan. Do you know that 90% of the world's heroin production comes from the poppy plants of Afghanistan? Many people know this. They don't seem to connect the dots. And what happened was the Taliban and the people of Afghanistan plowed up these poppy fields and they were planting wheat until the military people went in there and promptly took out the wheat, reestablished the poppy plants so that this 90% of the world's heroin can continue. And this cash flow enters into 4,000 different offshore banks that launder the money into the U.S. economy. Okay, so of course you can't just without reason go in October, go into Afghanistan and bomb the hell out of the place. You have to have a reason. And so, of course, after the Twin Towers attack, everybody agreed to, you know, how could the President of the United States know who attacked the towers on the same day? You know, either they knew what was happening and didn't do anything about it, or how could you know on the very same day who did it without any investigation to see what was going on and why? You know, it was obviously a very poorly theatrical stunt. Now look, there's another aspect we need to see, that for 50 minutes, these planes were flying around in the air unchecked. Do you know, when a commercial aircraft flies off course, immediately there are military jet fighters dispatched to intercept it, to fly alongside it and communicate with the plane immediately. It takes them less than 10 minutes to go up. That is to say, it's immediate. You get down into the plane, you go up, you intercept, it's less than 10 minutes. Or if a plane is hijacked, even if it just flies off course, they're intercepted. Yes, this is by the National Command Authority of the United States, the FAA, as it's called, the Federal Aviation Administration. Now, on the day of the Twin Tower attacks, there were 4 planes that were not only flew off course, but were known to be hijacked, and there were no jet fighter planes dispatched. And you don't need presidential consent. You only need presidential consent to shoot down a plane. And so, why were these Air Force fighter jets not dispatched? Only an hour and 15 minutes later, they went up to make sure to see if everything was okay. That is to say, we've got to come to grips with the fact that the role of the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration in this case, was to make sure that nothing interrupted the plan to attack the Twin Towers. They were there to make sure that everything would take place as planned. So who has the authority to control the FAA, to control the United States government, to control our institutions, even our values? You know, when are we going to wake up to this Rockefeller, Rothschild regime, how they are controlling our society, our nation? And you know, this is not to mention the fact that demolition experts see that the towers went down in a too much of a perfect way. In fact, the towers are designed to absorb an airplane. They would never collapse due to an airplane hitting the towers. And not only did they collapse perfectly and people saw explosions, it was a type of demolition, but there is another strange factor involved, that much of the towers disintegrated. And many people inside the building and on the ground floor and around the building were burned. And there were 1,400 cars in Lower Manhattan were burned. Well, if you know anything about the HAARP weaponry, HAARP, it's a laser weaponry that was invented by Tesla during World War II and later has gotten into the hands of the military and perfected. And when they put this laser weaponry onto a lake, for example, all the fish they burn, they come floating up to the top. It causes burning. And we see the same type of symptoms in the Twin Tower attack. So it seemed to be a combination of demolition and also this HAARP weaponry on the location as well. And then the planes hitting the building were just like a theater in order to get people very emotionally involved, that it was terrorist, so that the Rockefeller regime can go into Afghanistan and reestablish those poppy plantations so that the heroin can continue to move. We're dealing with a group of very sick people. You know, this Rockefeller, Rothschild regime, as I call them, these economically powerful people, they're very mentally disturbed. And we've got to realize that they've taken control of our government and as a result of our way of life. Do you know, for example, in elections, what are your choices? Do we still think that there's democracy in the United States when your choice is either a person who is completely bought by the economically powerful or he is one of them? These are your choices. You know, there's nothing left of our government in terms of what our founding fathers established for us to uphold, to cherish and uphold. We haven't upheld it. And do you see how these people at Wall Street, do you see the kind of mentality that they have, that knowing what was happening, instead of alerting the public or trying to do something about it, they started to make money on it, on the demolition of these towers and the murder of all of these people in these buildings. So it shows a highly immoral mentality. And you know, this kind of immoral mentality to make money on even such an event as this, it shows people who have sold their souls to a degree of immorality that can only be called pure evil. And we've got to be very careful, because Americans in general have been very taken by this Reaganomics type of thing of making money with money and getting money without working for it. Do you know, if you get money without doing something for society in exchange, that is to say, without working for it, that is highly immoral. That is completely unethical. And this kind of mentality, this immoral mentality, has swept over the United States completely. That's why the solution to our problem is not only an economic question to rejuvenate the economy. No, we're in a decadence as a people. You know, we want money without doing a service for it. And as you can see, if it goes too far, you see like these Wall Street speculators, they're willing to sell their souls to make money. You know, we can't do that. It's getting too close to the type of individuals that the Rockefellers are. Very mentally disturbed, sick people. And we can't fall into that type of mentality any further than we already have. Do you know we made a kind of pact with these people? You know, they've seduced us in a type of a lifestyle of getting money very easily. You know, this money from the poppy plantations of Afghanistan that is turned into heroin, that is laundered through these 4,000 offshore banks that goes into the United States. We're living off of that. We live off of, how could I say, destruction of lives, even the death of lives. You know, to become a millionaire, multi-millionaire, nobody becomes a millionaire through work. You become a multi-billionaire only if you're a drug dealer, a drug runner, or you exploit humanity in a completely immoral manner, as the economically powerful people do. This 1%, as we call them, at Occupy Wall Street. And you know, I have a very interesting photo for us, because in Germany, something happened there. There was a very beautiful event with the Occupy people there. It was called Blockupy. The blocking access to the European Central Bank. You know, because of the austerity measures, they are trying to make people even poorer. The domination of the banks, the International Monetary Fund, and what they call untamed capitalism. They were protesting against this. And the police joined in with them. Can we show this photo of the German police joining with the protesters there? You see, they've taken off their helmets as a kind of a symbolic to their peaceful demonstration, which they agree with, this blocking the access to the European Central Bank. These highly immoral international bankers, you know, this Rockefeller, Rothschild, Morgan, Carnegie people, they have to be stopped. And there were 20,000 people in the Occupy Frankfurt. And as you can see, the German police were leading the demonstration to the European Central Bank. In stark contrast to that, we have the New York City police and all of the police throughout the United States who are so brainwashed that they're willing to commit themselves to protect the very people who attacked the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center. You know, the NYPD, they are protecting the Rockefeller Rothschild regime who attacked the Twin Towers. So this has to stop. What can we do with this NYPD? These people who are so brainwashed. And you know what? Knowingly or unknowingly, for the people of the NYPD, you are responsible for your actions in all of eternity. You will pay for this in eternity. You know, so what do you think of this? Do we continue in the same type of stupidity that we're in? You know, the Occupy Wall Street, they're trying to bring consciousness of our problems in peaceful assembly, which we have a constitutional right to. So look, take back what has been stolen from you, from these very sick multi-billionaires. Take it back, you know, occupy, and see you again on Analyzing the 1%.
So We occupy for change. We're marching to the beat of Occupy Wall Street. We're here to shout, we've been left out, we're turning up the heat. Punish Wall Street, not the workers. Bail out families, not the bankers. Make jobs, not wars, tax on millionaires. We occupy for change. We're marching to the beat of Occupy Wall Street. We're here to shout, we've been left out, we're turning up the heat.
Power to the people! 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 Power to the people!